Hello, travel biz owner. Welcome to my corner of the travel industry, the Strategic Travel Entrepreneur Podcast. If you're ready to have fun, be inspired, get clarity, and take action in your travel business, then you're in the right place. Let's jump in. Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to have you here. I am also very excited because I feel like I am at the tail end of what has been a really crazy period of life between September, having my hysterectomy, which I'm 6 weeks post-surgery. So I only have like one restriction left, and I've kind of kept that restriction in because I don't want any complications in the future. But everything else, I'm pretty much back to normal. So super excited about that. Then we had prep for Wave Week. Then we had Plan Your Year workshop. In between that, there was Travel Pro Summit. And right now I am helping with Hardwired, which is Host Agency Reviews Tech Week. And then I'm done. There are a couple little things here and there, but it doesn't require as much capacity as like carrying a lot of these other things have. So I am so stinking excited. Speaking of, if you haven't been watching Hardwired this week, make sure you go over and check it out, har.news/hardwired, HERWIRED, because depending on when you're listening to this, if you're listening to this when we get live on Friday, they are going to have demos of 14 different tech providers. I don't think I've ever seen this happen before. So just highly recommend, especially if you're like, I'm in between like two different companies and I'm not sure which one to go for. You're going to be able to get the ins and outs of a lot of the different tech companies and figure out like, is this something that I need for my business? Or if you've been whittling it down to like two different options, does somebody look more visually appealing to you than somebody else? Does somebody's functionalities work a little bit more for how your brain functions and things like that? So yeah, make sure that you are signed up for that. Also, humble request from you. I am very close to having or hitting that 100,000 download mark for the Strategic Travel Entrepreneur Podcast. So, ways that you can help me spread the word of the podcast so that I have this lofty goal that I want to reach this by New Year's Eve of this year. So I want to see if we can do it by the end of 2025. So request from you is, one, if you haven't shared the podcast out with any of your colleagues, whether that's people in your host agency, people in your consortium, people maybe within another host agency group or a travel advisor group, as long as you have permission, because I don't want you to do this and not have permission. As long as you have permission to post, would you mind sharing a little bit about the Strategic Travel Entrepreneur Podcast and maybe which one is your favorite episode or what got you hooked onto the podcast so that people know the greatness that is on here, because it's not just me. This is a huge, amazing community of travel leaders, travel experts, and also travel advisors just like you. So that would really help me out to get us closer to that 100,000 download goal. And then also, if you haven't already sent in a review, a rating and a review, I would also appreciate that, because that will help other people see the value inside of the Strategic Travel Entrepreneur Podcast. So again, in that little blurb that you write, you can also put like, my favorite episode was this one because of this one, or this one completely hooked me onto the podcast, and that just helps other travel advisors see why they should be joining our fun community over here. So thank you so much for doing that in advance, and I'll try and keep us updated and posted on social media, so like how we are doing and how close we are getting. So the long-awaited lead generation episode is here, about like prepping and having some lead generation ideas for wave season. Now, I've written down a lot of ideas because you know me, I can't just have a couple of ideas, and I'm also going into like a little bit of mentality, like looking into different people's mentalities. So one of the first things that I wrote in my notes, kind of preparing for this episode, is One of the big things that we're noticing, especially in the age of AI, budget travelers, I mean, we already knew they were kind of stingy and all that, but especially when we're thinking about lead generation ideas, just drop budget travelers as somebody that you want to be meeting, or they might be like a really great referral partner, but they're not going to convert into a paid client. So, and when I think of budget clients, it's not just budget clients, but people who love to be in control of their bookings and people who love to DIY their trips. You don't need to they're not going to use your services, and I need you to understand that. Maybe down the road, but right now, they love planning the trips themselves. They love having full control. They are not going to value your services. They are not going to value your time, because a lot of these people are also probably going behind you and being like, yes, that's a good hotel. Or you picked a bad hotel. What about this hotel? Don't just save your sanity, especially as we're going into 26, where any budget DIY control freaks, those aren't your ideal clients. So you're not going to be hanging around where some of those people might be. What I want you to focus on is really this premium market of clients is going to be your bread and butter when it comes to the future, because this premium, and of course, yes, this does mean luxury. It can mean luxury, and again, premium and luxury mean something different. But when I say premium client, these are the clients that are going to value your time. They don't have the time to plan their trips. If they do have the time, they're very confused at what AI is telling them. They're also very confused at what they're finding when they're doing a Google search or anything like that. And they're getting to the point of frustration where they're I don't want to do that. I'd rather pay somebody to take care of this and know that when I come home from work, all I have to focus on is my family time, or all I have to focus on is going to my gym or doing my massage or chiropractor or whatever fun activities that they have after work or after school ends or all that. They can put their focus on that instead and not having to plan this next trip that they have to come up. So thinking about that, who are those types of people that value paying for services? They're probably paying for personal chef services or a meal delivery service, kind of like HelloFresh. They're definitely hiring out other help, someone to help clean their house, different service providers, maybe a gardener or grass cutting services and things like that. Those are also indicators that they are willing to spend money on things that they don't want to do, like travel planning. So focusing on the inner workings of the brain of somebody who is wanting to hire that out. Lead generation also begins right now for wave season. It is October. I would say maybe we're starting this a little bit late, but you actually do have almost a full other quarter to generate your leads for wave season, especially if you do want to be busy in Q1. I'll never forget, business coaches say day in and day out that the business that you have today is as a result of what happened 3 to 6 months ago. So in 3 months, in 6 months from now, so we're thinking Q1 and Q2 of 2026, if you want to have a busy and booked, busy meaning that you have enough clients to cover what your income goal is, not totally hustling there, and then booked so that people are on a wait list almost to utilize your services, you've got to begin that right now. You cannot delay. And actually, this is the best time to start meeting people, because while maybe in other seasons, and especially summer, because there's so many people that are already traveling at that time, it's hard to meet people. However, there are so many events during this time that you can meet so many different people that you just have to get on Google. I don't know that I would necessarily trust AI with AI might be able to help you with some ideas, but I feel you're going to be able to get more bang for your buck if you are Googling or using a search engine to find where local events are happening to you. Because funny enough, even the AI overviews are a little They're a little hit or miss from what I'm noticing too. But yeah, we've got to start planting the seeds for Q1, which is part of wave season right now. I have two ideas about this, and that is, if you haven't been networking at all, you need to start networking right now, because especially if you keep on this track of you not meeting people and not creating those relationships, that wave season is going to be a puddle. Like, there's nothing that's going to happen because you haven't cultivated relationships. People don't know who you are. They don't know that your business exists. So how can you possibly think that your business is going to pick up if you haven't generated any business relationships? It's just, and I wish that somebody had said this back when I was a baby business owner, because I feel like I would have listened and hopefully gotten out of my comfort zone at that time. If you have been networking this time and you're continuing to do it, because networking is not something that you should stop doing, it might be time to start putting that bug in their ears of like, maybe you want to plan a group trip. Maybe we should get started with the trip that you're having or that you're wanting to go on. So putting that, especially if you've been talking to different people, and I'm not saying like be that sleazy person like, hey, is it time to book that trip? But especially if you're collaborating with another business owner, be like, hey, I know we've chatted a lot and you're doing really great work. I see this within the flower community. Have you ever thought about maybe like you do all these amazing like floral classes. Have you ever thought about like putting a group trip together where you can do some of these classes overseas in Europe or on a cruise ship or in the Caribbean or wherever it may be? Like putting that bug in their ear, because they may not have ever even thought that a group trip like this was available or even possible. And so you need to like plant that little earworm so they can start thinking about it, and that it becomes hopefully an idea that they can't stop thinking about. And hopefully, obviously, because you were the one to put it in their head, they're like, I need to go back to my favorite travel advisor friend and explore this idea a little bit more. Because especially when it comes to group trips, as I'm putting together my own group trip, it does take a lot of time to get these off the ground, lifted, and launched. So you do need a little bit of a runway. So if you're able to do that in this Q4, you're going to be better equipped for more people to be like, I think we need to like move forward, put the yes button down and all that. I would also say that this is the time where if you don't necessarily want to be attending networking events per se, you need to be out there attending some sort of events, having some sort of visibility. Visibility is how brand awareness comes to be for your business. And again, if nobody knows about your business, knows about what you do, and even if you have been out there, this does help put like a stamp, like, yes, I'm still here. Yes, this is what I'm still doing. Because I'm thinking about brands like M&M's and Coca-Cola. They just didn't put one commercial out there. They weren't just at one event and then they gained success from that. I mean, they may have gained success from one event, but we didn't see all the thousands of other or hundreds of other events that they attended in order for that to happen. We're always expecting some sort of like really endearing Coca-Cola commercial around the holidays. Same thing with M&M's. You know that commercial with Santa Claus on it. They're always doing something to stay visible, to increase their brand awareness, to be out there. And you've got to do the same thing for your travel agency. So even if you've been like, oh, I've just attended all these events, or I always do this, maybe we tweak what the plan is, or you go to different events, but you can't stop, especially if you're needing clients, and especially if you're really hoping, and not only hoping, but putting the work to have a stellar Q1, you need to be doing the things now. And so I see events in one of two ways. Well, I actually see them in 4 ways, but I'm going to talk about 2 ways. So you can either attend events, so like you're an attendee, you don't have any role other than being an attendee, Or you can vend at events, VEND. You can be a vendor at the events, which means you're paying some sort of entry fee to have a booth, meet people, talk it up, start getting contacts from there. So some of the things that I think about, especially as we are in Q4, which is, again, primo time. I remember there was a couple years ago, and many of you know, I think I've shared the story of like, I've done a lot of those little side MLM-y businesses. I don't do them anymore because obviously it didn't work out, because those types of things aren't meant to work out. They're meant to work out for the people up top, which is why we're not fans of them. But anyways, I digress into that rant. My friend and I, we went to so many events. This is a lot of work, but it can be really lucrative if you're going to the right types of events. So October, we're in Oktoberfest. So I'm sure in your community, unless maybe you're in a more rural area, there's got to be some sort of Oktoberfest event that's happening. And this can be just like a city, a county, I'm like, what's the word? A county event. This can be like a neighborhood event. This might also be an event like if like here in Central Florida, there's a German restaurant. Obviously, they're going to be doing some sort of Oktoberfest event. So you being an attendee at this event, you can meet different vendors that are there, especially if you don't have the budget to be a vendor. You should be mixing and mingling and networking with those vendors. Get to know what their products are. Maybe purchase a couple products or things like that at these types of events, but keep their contact information in your back pocket, especially if they are selling something that you really are just a raving fan about, because that is going to help you more easily build a connection, especially if you find a floral vendor at this Oktoberfest event and you start going to like their monthly classes or whatever. You're building this relationship with the people that run this place. They are going to be more apt to want to do business, or at least hear you out in planning some sort of group trip, because you're sharing so much interest in their business. So, and that's the other thing that we have to consider as well, is that sometimes you do need to put a little bit more work than what somebody else is going to do in order to reap the rewards. So thinking about that as well. So I've got like Oktoberfest, all sorts of fall festivals. This is also like being able to volunteer. So next month, if you celebrate, we have Thanksgiving coming up. There's so many volunteer events that have to do like either with giving food, donating food, putting meals together, maybe even serving meals at like food kitchens. So being around that, the people that are able to volunteer their time are people that have time. Who else has time? People that travel. So again, while it's not like a direct, you're not going to be like, hey, we're putting sandwiches together. What about that next trip? No, you're not going to be the sleazy car salesperson. But you're going to start a conversation with like, is this your first year that you've done this before, that you've put sandwiches together? Is this the first meal that you're packing? Is this the first year that you're packing meals for the homeless shelter for Thanksgiving? And then conversation just flourishes from there. These are the beginnings of what can be, not guaranteed, but what could be pretty beautiful relationships, either personally, hopefully professionally. But you just have to be in the right places where other people are at. I feel like this is also going to show some sort of values alignment, because clearly, if you're doing good in the community and you meet somebody doing that as well, you're most likely going to have some other values alignment that is going to just make for really great synergy to work with each other as well. We've also got the plenty of holiday festivals. And then I have been adjusting my diet recently because I just need to make some health changes. And so I'm not eating sweets as much, but When I do want some sweets, I'm like, okay, is there a good local gluten-free bakery that I can go to? And what I'm finding that is that a lot of bakers, they don't have like their own facilities, but they go to a lot of markets. So thinking about that as well, there's going to be festivals with a lot of fun stuff that's happening, but are there also markets that maybe you're not a vendor at, but you can meet other small business owners there and start a relationship? Again, patronizing their business. You never know what can come back from doing that. When I think about being a vendor at events, I want you to think like very creatively about this as well. Because some of the things that come to mind, especially when we're thinking like premium clientele, car shows, boat shows, yacht shows. I think about like car dealerships, and is there a way that you can have some sort of partnership there? So really thinking like, what are those? And I would go to my pro tip here is if you're like, I don't know what kinds of shows or things like the big conventions that are coming, go to your local, again, if it's local to you, go to your local convention center's website. They're going to have a calendar of events, and you can see some of the big events that are coming. Now, some of these events are industry type of events, so you might not be able to go or be on the show floor or anything like that, but some are also going to be open to the public. Some might charge an entrance fee. Even if you're able to be a vendor, maybe you're able to partner with different travel advisors or some of your business development managers to see if they can help like use some marketing funds for you to have a booth, because the big convention center shows, that's like thousands of dollars of investment that you need. So that's why I say like you have to also figure out like what's a great vending opportunity and what's a great just attending opportunity. The other thing that I'm thinking about, especially because sometimes podcasts and speaking opportunities do take some time to go live, is looking at that, being on other people's platforms, OPPs. Whatever speaking opportunities I'm going to shout out, and I mentioned this at Plan Your Year, shouting out Dina Farmer with Spectrum Getaways, who she was on recently like a neurodivergent summit online and speaking about how travel can be educational for kids. Like you can use your trips as educational opportunities for your children. So thinking about like those very niche events, if like neurodivergency doesn't speak to you, you don't have anybody in your family, you can't relate to it, that's not for you. But there's something else out there. What's one of your hobbies? Who are the type of people that you hang out with? What do you like to do? So I'm like, when I immediately think about that, I'm like, I like the nerdy stuff. And I know there's travel advisors who specialize in stuff like this, like going to the mega cons or the comic cons, and they have booths because they're doing all these different trips that have to do like with different fandom books or fandom TV shows and movies or series. So that is one place where you might be able to harness and meet people. That also gets me thinking about people of influence. Okay, before we go to people of influence, thinking similarly back to the public speaking opportunities is podcasting. It's going to be way better if you're pitching yourself to a podcaster of somebody that you already listen to. Because as a podcast host myself, I get pitched, and most of those pitches end up, like I'm probably pitched at least once a day, and most of those pitches end up in the spam box because it's a lot of people who are agencies that are sending just generic emails and not like relating it to anything that my audience, aka you guys, can find really helpful. So that's why I say you need to do research and you need to be vested in the podcast that you're interested in going on. Podcasts, not just one, but a couple, so that you put yourself out there in different communities as well. And at least like podcasting is super simple because you can do this from the comfort of your own home. Similarly, if you're speaking at virtual events and you're able to do this out of the comfort of your own home, I say that like the time to do this is now and to be finding those opportunities now, because sometimes it does take a while for those episodes either to record or to go live after they've been recorded. So it's not like you ask so-and-so or like you pitch a really great topic to so-and-so so-and-so host and you're like, I should be on your podcast. Don't start out that way. Just saying like, hey, I have a topic that might be really beneficial to your audience. What do you think about this? I feel like these are relevant topics right now. And this does not have to be travel podcast per se. Like, is there special diet, like gluten-free, special dietary needs? Like, I know that there was a travel advisor who attended a gluten-free convention recently to pitch gluten-free travel. So amazing opportunity there. So thinking about that, like, are there sports teams? Are there family events? Are there food and wine types of events? You just have to think about the certain audience that you want to work with and what types of events that community has, or what types of podcasts and things and speaking opportunities they might have, so that you can align yourself that way. I also think because people who are typically have like some sort of community are people of influence. I don't want to really say the influencer word, but yes, influencers kind of follow along in here. But people who have communities that you might be able to partner up with, either for a speaking opportunity or to present some sort of joint venture partnership. Like, you have this amazing community of people who love blue lunchboxes. Maybe we should get them together to see the original blue lunchbox factory. Like, I'm saying hyper niche, hyper specific, because that is like, you're going to be ringing in, that's going to be your honey. You're going to be ringing in so much more people using that honey. And at the same time, it's going to be vinegar for some people, because some people are going to be like, I don't care anything about blue lunchboxes. But the right people are. Like, I think about so many different communities that I've been a part of or that I know about, like the the paper planner community is huge and insane. And there's lots of different opportunities with people of those communities because they have such large people in their audiences to put group trips together. I know there's some people in like the dating coach community that also like put those types of trips together. So how can you like get yourself in there? And it's starting with a relationship and then eventually pitching, but you got to do that now, especially if you want it to come into fruition in a couple of months. I also think about LinkedIn. If your time is limited and you only have time for virtual types of lead generation and connection, you better be active on LinkedIn, not only posting, but also active in other people's threads and either articles or their posts, so that people, one, are kind of like they're gravitating because you also have a values alignment there, but they also see your profile or your tagline and they're like, maybe I should connect with this person. And you can also do the same. You don't have to wait, and please do not wait for somebody to be like, oh, I'm interested in this. Like, be the proactive one. And if there's somebody that you want to connect with, say like, hey, I would love to have a virtual coffee chat with you. So don't sleep on LinkedIn. If you're not sure, or you're in a place where like there's not a lot of events that are going on, I always like to go the route of create your own event then. Create your own platform if there's nothing around or nothing like it. Create your own event and really leverage whoever you have that you're connected with to really get people to coming to this event. It can be an in-person event. This can also be a webinar that you wanted to teach on a type of travel. Maybe you already have taken out group space for a trip in 2026 and you just want to have a launch party and all that, like a launch event. I mean, you could do it with a BDM, but I also had one of my travel advisor friends who recently had her BDM bail out on her. And I was like, I don't like that. I do appreciate that BDMs do assist and do help. And for the most part, like, that's the exception and not the rule. But this is also your business. You're not having these events to promote your BDM's business. So you need to do what is in the best judgment and in the best light of your business. Like, you have to have your business's interest first. And so creating your own event or running your own event is going to be at the forefront here. And if you kind of like need help, like I need some resources, I need some slides, I need to know what I need to put on the slides, I need to know what I need to put on the PDF, I do have the Wave Season Starter Kit to kind of get you started. So let me know if you're interested in that. I'll try and link it in the show description too, because it helps you instead of like starting from square one and doing like your own marketing efforts, especially for group trips. You've got a little bit of shortcut there with some of the resources that I've made. I also think of like, here's a little bit of the, like, let's dig a little deeper into the psychographics of things, especially when I think about creating your own event. So I've done this in gender specific type things, and this can also be like, you can use these ideas even if they're non-gender specific. So I've taken like women's events, men's events, and then I've also put family events. So one of the ideas, and this came, I think, from Prep for Wave Week, is if you wanted to put a women's event together, but you have different service providers, including yourself, you're able to like either rent some space, or maybe there's a restaurant that you're able to like reserve a room complimentary, and then you have like different tables. Each business has their own table so that you can showcase something. So if you wanted to do like a women's event, I wrote down like med spa, massage, beauty salons. I'm thinking like hair or nails, even like boutique, maybe jewelry shop, either like jewelry shop owners, or there's a lot of like independent type of jewelers who are creating different things, like just creating some sort of women's event. This is also going to put you like with so much juju with all those other business owners that you've taken the time to go ahead and create an event like this, and really create an event that's going to help the whole rather than just one or two people. Everybody's going to benefit from this visibility and awareness platform. If it's a men's sort of event, I think definitely you've got to have like some sort of sports component there. So is this like, I think golf immediately is the one that I think about, because golf clubs are expensive to my knowledge. So I'm trying to think, okay, like what are things that people really have to invest a lot of money in? And so golf, not only like a golf course could you have at a men's events, but also like a golf shop that sells some of these items that men might need to like stock up on. I think about barbers. I think about like suit shops. I think about like fine goods, like cufflinks or socks or ties, things like that. I feel like those could all be really great vendors if you wanted to do some sort of men's event. You could also like, it doesn't even have to be gender specific, because I'm thinking about like nerdy like gamers. And so like maybe you have different types of gamers, because like I would be down to be going to some sort of like where there's a puzzle, like different puzzle vendors that are there, or if there's any sort of like tactile game or like escape rooms, I think about this. But then I also think about like, you know, GameStop or different shops like that that are selling gaming type of equipment and games. So that could be a different idea for you, just to all get together, have some sort of like gaming event. I think of also family types of events, and where I'm not really thinking about kind of the three previous examples I gave you, the women's events, the men's events, the gaming events. I kind of gave you the Avengers to assemble per se at these types of events. What I've written down in the family segment is more where are different places that you might be able to find events that would be really great for family travel. So I think of churches and schools, they're definitely going to be having some sort of at least one festival during this time. One of the things that we talked about during, I think it was Plan Your Year workshop, was auctions at some of these places. And again, not just submitting something for an auction piece, but also being a volunteer, because that gives you even more visibility, and it also helps you to cultivate some relationships. I'm also thinking like right now it is going to be charity season, because like I think of those things of Thanksgiving, and I think of people that aren't able to eat or do not have food security. I also think about like those families that are dealing with hardships and they're not able to afford some of the amazing presents that they would have loved to afford because they're going through hardships during this holiday season. So what are those charity events that you can be there, attend, maybe help raise money? Maybe you're a volunteer at these events. Because charity events are also where a lot of more people with time and money are going to be. And people with time and money are the types of leads that you're going to be wanting for your travel agency. I'm also thinking like end of year, this is going to be like award season as well. There's going to be different ceremonies. So are you able to like for these awards or are you able to sponsor maybe an award and have it be like the ABC Travel Award or something like that? Or that they mention you in a room full of people of potential ideal clients? Again, maybe you are a volunteer for these types of events. I also think like these types of events are going to have programs. So can you add an ad to any of these program books as ideas? Whew, lots of ideas. Clearly, I'm filled with them. Please go ahead if you have any great ideas that you would love to add to this list or something very creative and inventive that's worked for you. Please, in the show description, hit send Rita your thoughts because I'd love to hear and be able to share it on the podcast. Lastly, before we drop off, I did also want to say, and this was inspired by somebody on Hardwired who had mentioned something like, I know we're talking all about like getting new clients, but what about the existing clients that we have? And I'm like, actually, you're right, because your existing clients can be some of your best leads for wave season. So really reigniting your client list. If you have like a stale list because you haven't emailed them in a long time, whatever it might be, or there's been clients that normally take a trip every year, every couple of months, they haven't done that in a while. Even the ones that have done it, like this is what I talked about in my prep for Wave Week session about auditing your client experience. This would be a really great time just to hone in on the pulse of how people are thinking your client experience is and being able to make tweaks, because that also helps with lead generation. The better your experience is, the more raving fans that you're going to create for your own business. This is also the time. Cards. It's holiday season. Tangible cards, like the automated reminders are really nice, but people are gonna feel like you really thought and cared about them if they get something tangible in the mail from you. So one of the services that I'm personally going to be trying is Cardly, CARDLY.com. I think it's a .com. So that's somewhere that you can try to like automate sending out holiday cards. And this can be holiday cards, or this can be, I'm so grateful that you're in my business, or that you've been one of my travel clients before. I'm so grateful that you're one of my referral partners. I'm so grateful to have you in my business network, whatever kind of makes sense. And maybe you send these out like for Thanksgiving or in November, just because that's obviously one of the big themes in November is this gratitude and being thankful. So that's going to be a really great way to re-engage some potential clients. Also your email list, if it's a dead email list, it's time to revive that and start sending out, I want to say like weekly emails. Maybe you start off slow, like monthly, then bi-weekly, but you don't want to start off too slow because again, we're talking about leads for wave season. So you got to get them warmed up a little bit faster, because time is on our hands. And then the last thing that I think about that I've heard some travel advisors do is some sort of client appreciation event, whether that's doing the whole like Starbucks card, here's $100, be kind and like buy yourself a drink with it, but don't go crazy. I know travel advisors that will have like maybe a handful of BDMs come and like do a little like mini trade show and like just showcase some of the things that might be happening in the new year. So that's another idea for you. But really engaging in people who have been clients, regardless of how much time has passed since you've talked to them, and just making sure that they just feel loved and cared for, even when they're not currently traveling or don't have a trip booked with you, because that's also going to make you a standout business owner and, of course, their standout travel partner when it comes to thinking about their next trip. So, we did it. What'd you think? Was this a good episode for you? I do have a couple of other episodes that go really specific when it comes to lead generation. So I'm just trying to pull some of those up. So I did actually a lead generation series last year. So episodes 143 to 147 talk about finding leads for your business, and they go into specifics if you're a family travel agent, romance, food and wine, luxury. We also have a couple of steps to finding your next travel agency leads if you go to episode 147. So 143 to 147 are some good resources for you. And that's it. I need to rest. But again, I'm so glad that you are here, that you are hopefully enjoying the podcast. And I can't wait to come back with another fresh episode for you next week. Bye, everybody. Thanks for joining me on the podcast today. Remember to check out the show notes for all relevant links and resources from today's show. See you next time.